Hey Reddit, when did your "something's not right here" gut feeling ever save you? Wife called me while I was at work, just to say she was home from her night shift and planning to go to bed. She had worked night shift for years and never called me just to say she was home and going to bed before. She also sounded weirdly detached on the call. I asked her if she was okay. She said yes, just really sleepy. I got a weird feeling and told her I was going to leave work and come home. She told me I didn't need to. I said okay, and then I left work and rushed home anyway. Found a suicide note taped to the garage door. I got to her in time, rushed her to the ER, and got her the help she needed. A week of inpatient psych, followed by changes to medications and doctors. This was about 5 months ago, and she is so much better now. Give your wife a hug from me. It effing has to feel that way. So glad you were able to help her.
r/Reddit.
My mum dropped my 3-year-old brother off at daycare before she had to work in the morning. When she got to work she had this terrible feeling something was wrong with him. She ended up leaving work and drove to the daycare. She found the daycare lady inside sleeping while the daycare kids, including my brother, were running around the pool. My brother never went back to that daycare again. What kind of daycare would he even have a pool? Those things murder the shit out of little kids. In Canada, 50% of toddler drownings are in backyard pools. Kids drown so much faster than you think they could. It takes about 30 seconds. A phone call, a momentary distraction, a knock at the door. Going to the bathroom. That is about how long it takes. Toddlers are all suicidal. Parenting is 10% nurturing and 123% stopping them from killing themselves.
r/Reddit.
I had a gut feeling I should pull my wallet and phone out of my purse. Not even 20 seconds later, I get mugged. The man dragged me across the sidewalk and stole my purse. But all he ended up getting was a juice box and my birth control. What flavor was the juice box? And what flavor birth control? Fetus deletus flavor.
r/Reddit.
Forgot one, about 10 years ago. Working security at a site about 50 miles from home, got off shift at midnight, and didn't bother to change out of uniform because I was only going to stop for gas. 2 stations in the town I was working in were open after midnight, but it slipped my mind as I drove past the first one. Pulled into the other, same brand, same gas price, same sort of dump entirely, and just didn't like something about it. Nobody else around but Clark that I could see, but I decided to go back to the other one. Topped off and headed back out of town. I get close to that station again. 3 city cop cars, 2 deputies and a state trooper are outside blocking the road with guns drawn. Turns out a city cop walked in on a robbery. Dude put a bullet in his vest, and the store owner knocked the robber out cold with a bat before the cop could recover enough to get his gun out. That would have been me, in a uniform with a nice shiny badge, but no body armor. Wow, in all earnestness you actually dodged a bullet on that one.
r/Reddit.
I went to hospital with shortness of breath and my heart racing. They did a chest x-ray, blood test for blood clots, ECG, and a few other tests but all came back normal. After observing me overnight everything still looked good, oxygen saturation was perfect, my heart rate was still a bit elevated but nothing too crazy. And it seemed that it was likely leftover symptoms from a bad virus that I'd had a week or so earlier. The ER doctor asks me how I would feel if they sent me home and I just had a bad feeling about it all. I told him as such and that I had no real basis for it except that I just felt off about it. He said fair enough, let's try one more test and if that comes back negative then we'll send you up to general medicine and see if they can track something down. That test was a VQ scan that found despite all other tests showing no results for blood clots. it, I actually had a whole bunch of them in both lungs. I ended up with a diagnosis of unprovoked bilateral pulmonary embolisms and am on blood thinners for life. Super grateful both for the bad feeling and the ear doctor who was willing to listen to it. EMT here. I was taught if a patient tells you they think something is wrong or they think they are going to die, you need to listen to them. Same for nurses. There is a legit nursing diagnosis called sense of impending doom that is in reference to this feeling. Someone can't explain what is wrong and there's nothing obvious. But we need to take it seriously. The body somehow feels something wrong when the brain can't find the words. I found this to be very common with pulmonary emboli, heart attacks, and strokes. The body is so weird.
r/Reddit.
I smelled burning plastic early in the morning at my family cottage and almost went back to sleep. I was around 15, but got up to investigate. A socket on the outside of the building had caught fire and flames were shooting up the wall. The rest of my family was still sleeping and there wasn't enough smoke for the alarms to go off. I ran and got the fire extinguisher, got my dad up, and put it in his hands and pointed him towards the fire. Stopped it and called the fire department. It's for stories like this why I always get up when I smell something burning. I get really stressed out about it. 2 summers ago I woke up to the smell of fire and found out that a neighbor was burning leaves in his backyard and it had gone out of control. So scary. Edit. To clarify, since some people are getting edgy and go like, WTF, who doesn't worry when they smell of smoke, WTF. I live in a rural town, in a neighborhood close to the country. So there's a lot of burning leaves and having barbecues. You have to learn to recognize the different smells, leaves and kinds of wood, etc. Of course, if I smell smoke late at night I'll call someone and investigate, but during the day, 99% probabilities it's controlled fire. About 6 years ago I was up having coffee very early one summer. My husband and I heard an explosion and my meth addict neighbor screamed. He ran out back to see what was up. The guy was using MATs and a blowtorch to get the blackberries out of his backyard. He thought it was awesome. I'm happy he didn't burn my house down. We're in a downtown area where houses are detached, but very close. My meth dealer neighbor used to hunt fire ants in his backyard with an 18-gauge shotgun. Fungi. Edit. I have been corrected. It was likely actually a 12-gauge shotgun. I know nothing about firearms. My bad.
r/Reddit.
My aunt told me a story about my dad, who greatly dislikes his sister and is an all-around asshole 98% of the time, calling her out of the blue one night while she was in college. She answered. He said he didn't know why, but he had this urge to call her, to make sure she was okay. She told him she was fine and thanked him for calling to check on her. She never told anyone else except me, and hopefully a therapist or two, but she was holding the bottle of pills she was planning to commit suicide with right when he called her. 20-some years later and she's very happy with her decision to live. Edit. Since this has unintentionally garnered attention, please check out ways you can help or donate in your community. There is always the National Suicide Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Also good to know. Community services boards often have a mental health department, with paid employees working their crisis hotline, mental health services line during business hours, and volunteers outside of that, who can work with you to get the help you need. If you, or someone you know, has suicidal thoughts or struggles with substance abuse, please check the resources available to you. They can guide you through the process, give you information, help you call in a wellness check, direct you to other community resources such as shelters and safe homes, etc. 5 years ago I was one of the employees on the other end of the phone. Not a day goes by that I don't remember the people who were saved by reaching out, as well as the people who I failed to help. If you're struggling and think you'll be a burden to those lifeline workers, please know you'll live in their memories as a success story forever. We draw strength from your strength. Reach out. Get help.
r/Reddit.
I was going to meet up with someone from Marketplace to buy a phone and the feeling hit me, so I called the woman and a man answered, trying to play off the fact he's a man, and I passed by where we were meeting at and it was dark and I heard voices in the background on the phone call. I never stopped the car and kept going. Pretty sure I saved myself from at the very least a mugging, but learned a good lesson. Always meet in a public place. You can meet at police stations. I believe most are okay with this. Imagine how someone trying to mug people off online marketplaces would feel about this. Like if you gave them the address and they show up and it's a police station, like what would they do? Would they not show up? Would they show up and do the trade, or would they ask to meet somewhere else because that would make it obvious? Any bit of hesitance on their end would make me feel the transaction wouldn't be worth it. It would throw me off and wonder why they wouldn't want to do something that would protect the both of us. I wouldn't take the risks, unless they have a valid reason they couldn't. I can't meet you there, they'll stop me from mugging you.
r/Reddit.
Not me, but my mother saved my grandfather's life when he had a stroke in his chair in their living room. We had all started to walk around the development, when my mother, after about 50 to 75 meters from the house, said, "I am going to go back and check on Dad." I went with her, and I nearly witnessed my grandfather die. He was on the chair, conscious, but unable to move or talk, just looking at my mother with bulging eyes. She called 911 once, then twice when she felt that they were running late. Ambulance came, got him on the stretcher, but it was too wide to fit out the door. We ended up tearing the door frame off to get to him out. Because he was conscious, he actually remembers the ride to the hospital. He told us later that he heard the driver or someone say, "There is not a chance that this guy lives." That was when I was around 5 to 6 years old. He is still alive to this day, more than a decade later. At my mother's funeral, part of his speech was about how, without my mother's actions, he would not have been able to spend time with her during her final years of life. And for that, he is eternally grateful.
r/Reddit.
In 2004, on Boxing Day, not me but my mother, family trip including all cousins and extended family on my dad's side to visit the coastal south of Sri Lanka on vacation, about 20 people in all. Well-planned trip, last moment my mother didn't want to go. No reason at all. None of us could get her to explain why, but she refused to go. So we went inland on a different trip to see some other relatives. Around midday, the entire extended family, now on both sides, was sitting shocked in front of the television watching the very same hotel we booked being washed away live by the tsunami. To date, she still can't explain what she felt. Thanks for the gold and silver, guys. I just refer to that as the don't effing do it feeling, and I've felt it a lot in my life. Most notably was the time my mother wanted to go for a bike ride with me when I was little. Usual path, nothing strange. Well, this park we went to normally, and that happened to be the day that a car caught fire and had a huge fireball explosion next to my favorite slide, like 20 minutes after we would have gotten there, and I would have been on or near that slide when it was basically melted.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.